Across ancient Europe, diverse cultures sought to understand their place in a vast, unpredictable world by turning to nature, gods, and moral codes. From the misty forests of the Celtic tribes to the icy fjords of the Norse and the wind-swept plains of the Slavs, these spiritual traditions shared a core belief. Life was shaped by sacred forces, whether deities like Odin or cosmic rhythms like the Baltic solstice cycles. Each society, molded by its unique landscape and history, crafted rituals, sacred sites, and ethical guidelines to forge connections between individuals, their environment, and the divine. These practices, far from isolated, reflected a universal human drive to find purpose amid chaos, offering structure to both daily life and existential questions about death and the cosmos. This exploration delves into 6 major traditions: Celtic polytheism, Germanic Norse paganism, Slavic paganism, Greco-Roman paganism, Baltic paganism, and Finnic paganism, revealing how they provided meaning and order to ancient societies. These systems were not mere superstitions but sophisticated frameworks, as evidenced by archaeological discoveries like Celtic votive offerings, Norse runestones, and Baltic sacred groves, alongside texts such as the Norse Eddas and Finnish Kalevala. By venerating nature as sacred, following divine guidance, and fostering communal bonds, these traditions address timeless concerns about existence, mortality, and humanity's role in the universe. Their rituals, from animal sacrifices to shamanic trances, created shared experiences that unified communities, while their moral codes offered clear paths for living in harmony with both nature and divine will. The enduring influence of these belief systems is woven into modern cultural heritage, from folklore to place names, proving their lasting relevance. Stone circles like Avebury, epic tales like Beowulf, and festivals tied to seasonal cycles echo their impact. By blending reverence for the natural world with divine authority and ethical living, these traditions provided a cohesive worldview that resonates even today. They offer a window into humanity's persistent need to find meaning, showing how ancient Europeans transformed the chaos of existence into a structured, purposeful narrative through spirituality and community. Celtic polytheism, nature as a divine force. Celtic polytheism, flourishing from roughly 700 BCE to the 5th century CE across Western Europe, saw the natural world as pulsing with divine energy. Rivers, groves, and hills were sacred spaces, revered as gateways to the gods, as shown by archaeological finds like gold and bronze offerings in bogs and springs. Druids, the spiritual and political leaders of Celtic tribes, guided rituals honoring deities such as Cernunnos, the horned god of fertility and wildlife, and Brigid, who embodied healing, poetry, and craftsmanship. Animals held deep significance. Boars symbolized strength and courage, while ravens, seen as divine messengers, adorned artifacts like the Gundestrup cauldron, a silver vessel depicting Celtic myths. These elements wove spirituality into the landscape, creating a worldview where nature and divinity were inseparable. The concept of the otherworld, a cyclical afterlife accessible through sacred sites like caves or mounds, promised continuity beyond death, a belief recorded by Roman observers like Julius Caesar in his accounts of Gaul. Rituals, often involving animal sacrifices at stone circles like Avebury or wooden nematons, sacred groves, sought divine blessings for abundant harvests or protection in battle. Without written scriptures, the Celts relied on oral traditions, with bards reciting myths and genealogies to preserve their spiritual heritage. These stories reinforced moral codes rooted in respect for nature and divine will, fostering harmony within tribes. Archaeological evidence, such as ritual wells and carved stones, underscores how these practices unified communities by tying daily life to spiritual purpose. By revering natural cycles, spring's renewal, autumn's harvest, Celtic polytheism offered a framework for understanding life's rhythms. Sacred sites served as communal hubs where tribes gathered for festivals, marriages, and judgments, strengthening social bonds. The emphasis on living in balance with nature and honoring divine forces created a cohesive worldview that gave life meaning. Even as Christianity spread, elements of Celtic spirituality persisted in folklore and place names, like the River Brigid in Ireland. This enduring legacy highlights how Celtic polytheism met humanity's need for purpose, uniting people with their environment and each other in a shared spiritual narrative of harmony and reverence. Germanic Norse paganism, fate and the cosmic web. From 1000 BCE to the 11th century CE, Germanic and Norse peoples in northern Europe wove their lives around Wyrd, fate, and Yggdrasil, the cosmic tree linking all existence, as told in the poetic and prose Eddas. Gods like Odin, who traded an eye for wisdom, and Thor, wielding his hammer against chaos, shaped human paths, while Freya's magic brought love and fertility. Ravens, Odin's keen-eyed messengers, and boars, sacred to Freyr and carved on runestones, tied divinity to the wild. Spirits called Landvetter guarded hills and fjords, blending the physical and spiritual, as sagas describe travelers offering gifts to ensure safe journeys. This belief in a connected cosmos, where every choice echoed through divine and natural realms, gave people a clear sense of purpose, rooting their lives in a sacred order that honored both gods and nature. Rituals called blots, held in sacred groves or at sites like the Uppsala Temple, whose foundations archaeologists have unearthed, involved sacrifices of livestock or mead to secure blessings for crops or battles. These gatherings, often paired with feasts, strengthened community bonds, with runestones across Scandinavia praising heroic deeds tied to divine favor. Afterlives like Valhalla, a grand hall for slain warriors, or Hell, a quiet realm for others, linked moral actions to eternal fates, rewarding bravery and loyalty. Skaldic poetry, chanted by firelight, and sagas, later written down, kept these stories alive, painting vivid tales of gods and heroes that endured despite Christian influence by the 11th century, as seen in Iceland's late pagan holdouts. Yggdrasil's branches and roots, connecting realms like Asgard for gods and Midgard for humans, formed a universe where divine will and human effort intertwined, as the Eddas depict. This cosmic web gave people a place within a vast, meaningful world, where fate ruled but choices carried weight. By honoring gods through rituals, respecting spirits in nature, and living with courage, Norse paganism offered a framework to navigate life's uncertainties. Its legacy lives on in Scandinavian folklore, place names, and even modern celebrations, showing how it bound communities to their environment and spiritual heritage, fostering a deep sense of belonging and purpose. Slavic paganism, balance and ancestral ties. Slavic peoples in Eastern Europe, from 500 BCE to the 12th century CE, saw their world as a delicate balance between sky and underworld, led by gods like Purin, the thunder wielder, and Veles, lord of fertility and the underworld. Temple remains, like those at Arkona, reveal rituals uniting these forces, with offerings to ensure harmony. Bears, linked to Veles, symbolize strength, while eagles, tied to Purin, soared as divine emblems, as medieval chronicles note. Spirits like Domovoy, guarding homes, and Rizalki, haunting rivers, wove spirituality into daily life, making every forest and hearth sacred. This worldview, tying human existence to natural and divine rhythms, gave life meaning through a shared reverence for the cosmos and community. Rituals at sacred oaks or stone idols, especially during solstice festivals, brought villages together, with offerings of grain or livestock seeking blessings for harvests, as seen in archaeological finds like votive deposits. The afterlife, where souls rejoined nature or dwelled in an underworld, emphasized continuity, with ancestors guiding the living, a value central to Slavic folklore. Without written texts, oral traditions carried these beliefs, later captured by Christian scribes in chronicles like the Primary Chronicle. These practices strengthened family and tribal loyalty, creating moral codes that valued respect for nature and heritage, ensuring communities thrived in harmony with their spiritual and physical worlds. The dualistic cosmos, balancing Purin's sky with Veles's underworld, offered a structured view of existence, where opposing forces worked in tandem, as seen in myths about their rivalry. This balance fostered a sense of purpose, connecting people to their environment through worship and to their ancestors through reverence. Slavic paganism's resilience, preserved in folklore and rituals despite Christianization, shows its deep roots, with traces lingering in Eastern European traditions. By blending nature worship, communal rituals, and ancestral bonds, this tradition created a cohesive worldview that gave life clarity and meaning, uniting individuals with their land, kin, and the divine in a timeless, harmonious order. Greco-Roman paganism, gods and civic duty. From 1600 BCE to the 4th century CE, Greco-Roman paganism intertwined divine worship with civic life, shaping societies across the Mediterranean. Texts like Homer's Iliad and Ovid's Metamorphoses depict gods like Zeus, ruler of the heavens, and Athena, goddess of wisdom and warfare, as guiding forces in human affairs. Owls, symbolizing Athena's insight, adorned Athenian coins, while eagles, tied to Zeus's authority, appeared in Roman standards, linking divinity to the natural world. Spirits such as nymphs, inhabiting springs and forests, and Roman Laras, household guardians found in Pompeii's shrines, made spirituality a daily presence. This integration of gods and spirits into both public and private spheres created a worldview where divine will underpin personal and societal actions, offering a framework for understanding life's purpose. Public rituals reinforced this connection, uniting communities through shared devotion. Temples like the Parthenon in Athens or Rome's Pantheon hosted sacrifices of animals or offerings, seeking divine favor for prosperity or victory, as noted by historians like Herodotus. Oracles, such as Delphi's Pythia, provided divine guidance on matters from war to marriage, shaping decisions across Greek and Roman societies. Mystery cults, like the Eleusinian mysteries honoring Demeter and Persephone, promised initiates spiritual renewal and insights into the afterlife, fostering communal bonds. The afterlife itself, with Hades as the realm for most souls and the Elysian fields for the virtuous, tied morality to spiritual outcomes, encouraging ethical behavior. These practices, supported by state resources, embedded divine worship in civic identity, making religion a cornerstone of social cohesion. The syncretism of Greek and Roman pantheons, evident in shared deities like Apollo and Jupiter, created a flexible yet structured cosmology. Temples dedicated to blended gods, such as Rome's Temple of Venus and Roma, reflected this cultural fusion. Festivals like the Roman Saturnalia or Greek Panathenea celebrated divine and civic unity, blending reverence with public festivity. By linking divine authority to civic responsibility, Greco-Roman paganism offered a sophisticated system for navigating existence. It balanced personal ethics with communal duties, grounding meaning in nature's sacredness and divine guidance, a legacy that endured in Western art, literature, and philosophy long after its decline. Baltic paganism. Unity with the cosmos. Baltic peoples in northeastern Europe, practicing their faith until the 15th century CE, viewed the cosmos as a harmonious whole, guided by gods like Dives, the sky deity, and Zemina, the earth goddess. Archaeological finds, such as sacred groves in Lithuania, reveal spaces where worshippers gathered to honor these divine forces. Horses, symbolizing the sun's journey, and snakes, emblems of fertility, connected spirituality to the natural world, as seen in ritual artifacts. Spirits like Lima, who governed fate, and Velis, ancestral souls, bridged the living and divine, as recorded in medieval chronicles like the Livonian Chronicle of Henry. These beliefs wove humanity into the cosmic order, emphasizing balance and reverence for the environment as central to life's meaning. Rituals at Romuva groves or fire altars, especially during solstice festivals, sought blessings for fertile lands and abundant harvests, tying spirituality to survival. Offerings of grain or livestock, documented in early Baltic folklore, honored natural cycles and divine will. Lithuania's late Christianization, delayed until 1387 under Grand Duke Jogaila, preserved these traditions longer than in neighboring regions, as evidenced by the persistence of sacred sites like the Kernave groves. The afterlife, envisioned as a return to nature or an ancestral realm, encouraged moral living, with respect for family and community as core values. These practices strengthened social bonds, creating a shared sense of purpose rooted in the rhythms of the earth and sky. Baltic paganism's enduring appeal lay in its ability to unify people with their environment and cosmos. Seasonal festivals, such as the summer solstice Uzgavin's prototype, celebrated renewal and communal unity, blending spiritual and social life. The absence of centralized texts meant oral traditions, later recorded by Christian scribes, carried these beliefs, preserving their ecological and spiritual depth. By honoring natural cycles and divine forces, Baltic paganism offered a clear framework for understanding existence, fostering a worldview where humanity, nature, and the divine were inseparable. This legacy, visible in modern Baltic folklore and cultural festivals, underscores the tradition's role in providing a timeless sense of harmony and purpose. Finnic Uralic paganism, animism and spiritual bonds. Finnic and Uralic peoples in Northern Europe, practicing their faith until the 13th century CE, embraced animism, viewing every element of nature, forests, rivers, stones, as alive with sacred forces. Deities like Ukko, the thunder-wielding sky god, and Tapio, the forest lord, governed natural and human realms, as recorded in the Kalevala, Finland's national epic compiled in the 19th century from ancient oral traditions. bears, revered as sacred ancestors in creation myths, and swans, symbols of souls journeying to the afterlife, tied spirituality to the wilderness. Archaeological finds, such as Sida stones, large rocks venerated as spiritual conduits, reveal offerings of food and tools, showing how deeply the Finnic peoples integrated nature into their beliefs. This animistic worldview fostered a profound respect for the environment, where every tree or stream held divine significance, shaping daily life and survival in the harsh northern landscapes. Spirits played a central role in Finnic spirituality, with Haltijas guarding specific places like homes or forests and Vaki representing the dynamic forces within nature, such as fire or water. Shamans, revered as spiritual mediators, used trances, chants, and offerings in sacred groves to connect with these spirits and gods, as documented in ethnographic records from the early modern period. These rituals, often held at natural sites like lakes or cliffs, sought guidance for hunting, healing, or community welfare. The cosmos was layered, with the upper world of gods, the human world, and Tuonela, the shadowy underworld, where souls faced fates tied to their earthly actions. This moral framework encouraged ethical living, as individuals believed their deeds influenced their spiritual journey, reinforcing communal values of cooperation and respect for nature's balance. The Finnic tradition, preserved through oral epics like the Kalevala's tales of Vainamoinen, a shaman hero, emphasized communal rituals that strengthened social bonds. Festivals marking seasonal changes, such as midsummer, involved offerings to ensure fertile lands or safe winters, uniting communities in shared purpose. These practices, passed down through generations, created a dynamic worldview where humans, nature, and the divine were interconnected. By honoring the sacred in everyday life, Finnic paganism offered a meaningful framework for understanding existence, guiding people through life's challenges with a sense of spiritual and environmental harmony that remains influential in modern Finnish and Uralic cultural identity. Conclusion: the timeless power of ancient beliefs. The spiritual traditions of ancient Europe, Celtic, Germanic Norse, Slavic, Greco-Roman, Baltic, and Finnic reveal humanity's enduring quest to find meaning through nature, divine forces, and moral codes. From the sacred groves of the Celts to the towering temples of Greece, each culture crafted a worldview that linked people to the cosmos, as evidenced by archaeological discoveries like Stonehenge, runestones, and Baltic fire altars. Texts like the Norse Eddas, with their tales of Odin, and the Kalevala, with its shamanic heroes, preserve these vibrant beliefs, showing how they addressed universal questions about life, death, and purpose. Sacred sites, whether Slavic oaks or Finnic Sida stones, embodied nature's divinity, serving as focal points for worship and community gatherings that reinforced shared values and spiritual connection. Deities and spirits, from Zeus to household guardians like the Slavic domovoi, guided human actions, setting ethical standards that shaped societal norms. Rituals, ranging from Celtic animal sacrifices to Finnic shamanic trances, strengthened communities by fostering unity and mutual responsibility. Afterlives, such as the Norse Valhalla or the Greco-Roman Elysian fields, offered hope and structure, tying moral conduct to spiritual destinies and easing fears of mortality. These systems, far from primitive, were sophisticated responses to the human condition, addressing chaos and uncertainty with clear frameworks of meaning. Their emphasis on balance, between humans, nature, and the divine, created resilient societies capable of navigating life's challenges through collective faith and individual purpose. The legacy of these traditions endures in modern Europe, from folklore festivals to place names rooted in ancient deities, like the River Dee, from Celtic Deva, meaning divine. Their influence is seen in cultural practices, such as midsummer celebrations, and in the continued reverence for nature in many regions. By weaving together divinity, ethics, and the environment, these belief systems answered timeless human needs for connection and understanding. They provided not just spiritual guidance but a way to live harmoniously with the world, leaving a lasting imprint on art, literature, and identity. Ancient European religions, with their rich tapestries of myth and ritual, remain powerful reminders of humanity's drive to find purpose in an ever-changing cosmos.